If you've never seen a motion picture that keeps you on the edge of your seat, then see Dr. No. From Ian Fleming's best-selling novel, Dr. No, the unpredictable, indestructible James Bond comes to life in the explosive story of the amazing Dr. No. You'll live every breathtaking, exciting moment.
You carry a 00 number. It means you're licensed to kill, not get killed.
James Bond, gentleman spy, at home with a gun or with a woman. He makes Mickey Spillane look like a grandmother.
I've just got to put some clothes on.
Don't go to any trouble on my account.
Please.
Well, forgive me. I thought I was invited up here to admire the view.
There's never been a man like James Bond. There's never been a motion picture like Dr. No. See Dr. No, filmed in tropical Technicolor, starring Sean Connery as James Bond and the Swedish sensation Ursula Andress. Don't miss the year's most explosive motion picture, Dr. No.
Mama. So, welcome to Trimming the Movie Fat, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson, and thank you for joining me as I go back in time over 60 years to 1962 for the first ever James Bond movie, Dr. No. Joining me on board the BOAC de Havilland Comet 4 to Jamaica are my brother Paul, my friend Paul, and my son Ben.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
You carry a 00 number. It means you're licensed to kill, not get killed.
Welcome to Jamaica, Mr. Bond.
News of my arrival leaked. Who are you working for?
We didn't advertise it.
What else do we know about this Chinese gentleman?
Nothing except his name, Dr. No.
I'm a member of Spectre. World domination. Same old dream. Why is he still alive?
Our attempts failed.
You're not going to fail me again. I thought you'd turn up sooner or later.
Very clever, Mr. Bond.
It's a Smith & Wesson, and you've had your six.
What are you doing here? Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking. I thought there might even be a place for you with Spectre. And I'm flattered. I prefer the revenge department. I never fail, Mr. Bond.
Ursula's a legend, the quintessential Bond girl.
You are the most remembered of all the Bond roles. Actresses we've interviewed, Ursula, Honey Rider. Why is that?
I was a new kind of woman. You know, I represented a new type of woman, because before you had the Monroe, you know, the voluptuous roundness, and then I come as an athletic woman, sportive, strong, determined. Probably that made an impression and gave a success to my character.
I promise I won't steal your shells.
I promise you won't either.
And Dr. No just came out and was a sensation. And the style of filming, Terence Young was the director, and the combination of Terence Young and Peter's editing skills was quite amazing. He told me the story about Dr. No. He said Terence Young was sitting at the back of the press screening at the Odeon, Leicester Square, when they ran the film. And people started to laugh. And Terence got so embarrassed about it. They'd set out to make a proper, a drama, and he didn't expect people to laugh. Terence got so embarrassed that he actually left the cinema and went home. And of course the press previews came out that night, the press reviews came out, and of course they were raving about this new type of humour, this tongue-in-cheek humour. And Peter said to him, you better get out and get the papers. They're raving about you and your film, you know.
So Dr. No was released in 1962 and directed by Terence Young. In the film that launched the James Bond saga, Agent 007, played by Sean Connery, battles mysterious Dr. No, a scientific genius bent on destroying the US space program. As the countdown to disaster begins, Bond must go to Jamaica, where he encounters beautiful Honey Rider, played by Ursula Andress, to confront a megalomaniac villain in his massive island headquarters. So the movie grossed $59.5 million US dollars on a budget of $1.1 million. So it made a massive 54 times its budget. Ratings-wise, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 95% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score from the critics and a very healthy 82% audience score. And on IMDb, it has a 7.2 out of 10 IMDb audience rating and a 78 out of 100 critic Metascore on IMDb as well. And here's a fact for you in relation to the movie. This was chosen to be the inaugural movie in the James Bond film franchise, as the plot of the source novel was the most straightforward. It only had one major location, which was Jamaica, and only one big special effects set piece. And here's a movie mistake to watch out for. When Dr. No's men pass by in a boat and shoot at the shore where Bond, Honey and Coral are hiding, their commander shouts, we'll be back with dogs," into a megaphone, which has an echo effect. He then lowers the megaphone and waves his arms as he shouts, "Full speed ahead," which has the same megaphone echo effect despite the lack of megaphone use. And it is funny when you do spot it.
You coming out? All right then. We'll be back. We'll be back with the dogs. Full speed ahead.
And in summary, featuring plenty of the humour, action and escapist thrills the series would become known for, Dr. No kicks off the Bond franchise in style. So guys, what was your first impression of Dr. No when you watched it?
I liked it a lot. It goes to show that you don't need millions of dollars and lots of CGI to make a great film. Got a tight script, great direction, great actors, great location, great music, all done on the cheap, and you get a classic film.
Brilliant film. It's probably one of the ones, as a kid, it wasn't on. I don't think it was on TV that much. So it was one of the ones you saw like in the 80s. You probably saw it a lot later than maybe Goldfinger, for example. But I think it's a cracking film. It's probably a bit more, you can see it's just before they've hit the stride with the Bond films. But I think it's a really good film. A great debut from Big Tam.
It is indeed, yeah. I enjoyed it. I think we've probably all seen this on TV and on ITV back in the day. And the thing that I do like about the movie is because it was obviously not as maybe as outlandish or had as big a budget as the others as they went on. And it's nice, this one, because it's a very straightforward kind of spy type plot, which is quite refreshing. So yeah, I always remember really enjoying this, and good location in Jamaica as well. Ben, so you're 14. So you're coming to this with very different eyes, a movie that's over 60 years old. What was your first impressions of it, having just watched it, in the last 4 or 5 weeks for the first time?
Yeah, it's not boring, but it's very slow. Yeah, it's not like modern movies.
Okay, it's a bit too slow for you?
Yeah.
But you still enjoyed it though, yeah?
Yeah, it was all right.
So guys, how do you think this movie set the tone for the James Bond franchise overall?
I think it was quite gritty, like as the Bond novels are. I think it was more true to the novels, and has the best James Bond in the whole franchise. And the casino, just so cool.
I admire your courage, Miss...
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
That's the thing, it's just really cool and suave. Sean Connery just, oozes, that kind of charm and danger at the same time. It was ideal Bond, and I don't think it got as close to the books until Daniel Craig. Maybe a bit Pierce Brosnan, but certainly I think Connery and Craig were the actors closest to the Bond in the novels. And yeah, it's old school, but it's made in 1962, so of course it's going to be about dated nowadays. But I think if you take the story,
62,
it's just a spy story. There's nothing glamorous or anything like that. It's just a straightforward spy story.
It could have been a one-off, I guess. If it still would have been a good film, even if it hadn't began this franchise. But I just think it's a really good film, and even all the money in later Bonds, when you think about like Ursula Andress, Honey Rider coming, I mean, they're so iconic, those scenes. And then, like Paul was saying about James Bond, I mean, when you think about the budget and everything, these scenes are iconic. As iconic as any Bond film would be after it. And I think it's a really good adventure film, and it's great, I think, as well, because it's in Jamaica and it sets that scene, because nobody at that time could ever dream about visiting a place like Jamaica when you were growing up. So I think it was, it's probably, it does look the most dated, and because it is the most dated film, obviously, but some of the like freeze frames and stuff at the start, as it Strangways gets shot.
Yes, you must. Thank you.
So, but I think it's a really good film, and opens the door to the rest of them.
The series does fall into a successful formula, really from Goldfinger onwards. But I think with this one here, you're already starting to see the stalwarts, Moneypenny, Bond getting his mission in M's office before going off to an exotic location where he'll invariably kill people, sleep with women, crack some jokes, and defeat the bad guy. So we're kind of getting into the things like the vodka martini, shaken not stirred, Bond, James Bond. So it's all here from the beginning. So Paul, you had mentioned that Sean Connery delivers the most iconic Bond, James Bond, of the entire franchise in this movie. So Ben, I'm going to come to you, since you obviously never grew up on Sean Connery as James Bond. What do you think of him in this movie?
He's pretty good, because after watching On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I don't think that the person who played him was very good. It just seems like the character, like when you picture James Bond, you think of him.
And I think you mentioned a lot of his traits earlier, Paul. He's just got the charisma, he's got the charm, he's got the physicality. He can handle himself. He's from Edinburgh. Of course he can handle himself.
Sergeant, make sure he doesn't get away.
He's just got it. And I think a lot of people compared him, the way he kind of walked as well. It was like a panther. For a big guy, I don't know, 6'4", 6'5". He had a very light touch there, just the way he walked as well. What else makes him maybe the ultimate Bond in many people's eyes?
Sure. I think just masculinity as well, and the charisma is just, he's a gentleman, but he'll chop your head off in an instant if he had to.
Mr. Smith and Wesson, and you've had your 6.
That kind of character that's sort of controlled violence, if you like. It's not him lashing out. He'll be kind, he'll help you if he can, if he wants to, if you need it. But then, he'll break your neck in an instant if he really had to. And I think that's so the essence of Bond. If you read the books, it's hard drinking, gambling, womanizing as well, but charm.
It's the way you've lived your own life, Paul, isn't it?
I wish. Maybe the drinking and gambling, not so much the women.
He's the kind of guy that will put a couple of extra bullets into you after he's killed you.
Exactly.
In this movie, yeah.
He's just got charisma, isn't he? It's just, it's that saying, want to be with him and men want to be like him. He's just got that. You could walk into a room and you're struck by the charisma that he uses, and he's just so cool as well. And I think the accent as well, I think that helps as well. I don't know, it just makes it distinct. His accent, I just think it's brilliant. I think what makes it work as well is because he was very working class, and I think was it Terence Young said that Sean was like a rough diamond, so he had to take him to like Savile Row and get him into all that sort of, so he was like a gentleman. But I think that mixture of the gentleman, but also that toughness just works together brilliantly because they're very different, but together he captures them together, and that's what makes it successful.
Tell me, does the toppling of American missiles really compensate for having no hands?
Yeah, I saw him in Heathrow Airport. I was coming back from the US, this was like years ago. And I think he's about 6'2", so he's not massively tall, but his shoulders are like, like twice the size of mine. And you just had some presence about him. Some guy went up to him getting his autograph. And he just thought he was a big guy, really with massive shoulders, big hands, everything else. Yeah, you just see everyone watching him. He's just sauntering through the air, and I didn't have he was a wee bit away from me, so I didn't have the courage to go up the street to him, but a guy got in ahead of me to get an autograph, and there's a presence,
Yeah.
But Billy Connolly said that he has a bigness about him that we've never known in a single person in Scotland.
Yeah, but I was the same at Edinburgh Airport where I seen him walking along. Should have had his golf clubs on him. But yeah, he was walking very purposely. I didn't have the guts to stop him in his tracks to ask for a photo.
Hey, damn, get your autograph.
It probably hit me. So yeah, I let that go. But yeah, it was cool to see him in the flesh.
I'll just go and put some clothes on.
Don't go to any trouble on my account.
Please.
Oh, forgive me. I thought I was invited up here to admire the view.
In this movie, we get the first Bond girl, Honey Rider, played by Ursula Andress. How do you think she compares to the later Bond girls?
I think she's probably a Bond girl of her time, bit of a, dare I say, bimbo.
How dare you?
I know.
Damsel in distress.
But I think that's the way it was at that time. The women were basically treated as objects, I suppose. They were very glamorous, but didn't speak much English. Basically, sort of eye candy, and so Bond could get his leg over, I suppose. And so as the franchise progressed, the women got bigger roles. And
I'm glad you said roles.
Yeah.
Bigger roles.
I was going to say parts, but better not. You're dirty. Anyway, yeah, they got more involved, got tougher roles. And of course, eventually it was a woman. So I think you just see the progression with the times. Times are changing. Attitudes towards women were changing from the 60s onwards. So you can see that progression in the Bond films as well.
That was Paul's favourite thing to ever happen to the Bond franchise when M became a woman, wasn't it, Paul?
Yes. My favourite part was when in Skyfall at the end,
when Judi Dench got killed.
Yeah.
It's funny because obviously a lot of people find Honey Rider iconic and the most attractive Bond girl, and it's probably the spoof Casino Royale movie. Ursula Andress is in that, and she's absolutely stunning in that movie. Oh wow, unbelievable! So yeah, if it was based on that movie, absolutely.
England expects every man to do his duty.
But yeah, I'm sure if memory serves, I'm sure our lines were dubbed in this, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I think she's brilliant. It's iconic, that scene, and her lines were dubbed. But what I didn't realise was pretty much up to Moonraker, a lot of the female actresses or Bond's love interests, quite a lot, most of them were dubbed. Even Jane Seymour, believe it or not, in Live and Let Die was dubbed. So it would be interesting to hear the actual pre-dub. If you could get that'd be amazing, like as an extra or something. But I think she's really good. It just sets the tone for the rest of them, and yeah, she is. It's very much a product of its time, and like a bit like the damsel in distress, and Bond's going to come and save you. But that was the way films were at that time, but she's quite feisty as well. I think she can hold her own as well.
That's one of the funny lines in the movie where she says she killed the guy who had attacked her, and asking Bond, was I wrong to do that? She's like, well, I wouldn't make a habit of it, which is great.
I put a black widow spider underneath his mosquito net. A female, and they're the worst. It took him a whole week to die. did I do wrong?
Well, it wouldn't do to make a habit of it.
So, Ben, this would be, you watching it the first time, this will be the first James Bond villain you've really gotten to know. So, Joseph Wyman as Dr. No. What do you think of Dr. No as the villain?
And not very good, because I can't really remember anything he did or said. Just not
Really?
very memorable.
What about his arms?
I can't remember what his arms look like.
Right, his metal arms.
I don't remember that.
His hands.
Just the
hands
hands,
are
is it?
metal.
Right, there we are. So memorable to me as well.
Yeah.
So you didn't think he was all that memorable. What about you guys then? The old days, do you think he's memorable?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a character, there's the name of the film, Dr. No. So he was bound to be memorable, and that Joseph Wiseman was brilliant. With a sort of cool menace about him. Yeah, I think he was perfectly believable as a megalomaniac.
Yeah, I think he's quite good. He's a good introduction to the series, but I suppose it's funny now when you look at it. It's like, why does quite a lot of Bond villains have to have like some sort of deformity or scar or something? And I suppose that's where it starts with his hands. But no, I think he's really good, and it just makes me think of the sets. Was it Ken Adam? The sets are absolutely unbelievable. They're amazing. I just think of the sets and Dr. No, and crushing that, doing the crushing thing. But no, I think he's quite good, yeah.
East, west, just points of the compass, each as stupid as the other. I'm a member of Spectre.
Spectre?
Spectre. Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, Extortion. The four great cornerstones of power, headed by the greatest brains in the world.
Correction. Criminal brains.
I like him. I think he's memorable. I think especially when Bond and him are sitting down to dinner, the kind of banter that's going backwards and forwards, and Bond's trying to get a rise out of Dr. No. But am I right in saying, obviously, his parentage was it half Chinese or Japanese?
That was Chinese.
Yeah, and half American or something. I think, did they not give kind of makeup around his eyes and such, like to make him look slightly oriental?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know if you would do in this day and age. I think you'd probably get a bit of bad press for doing that. Yeah, I don't think you'd get away with it. And Ben, I want to come back to you. You said the movie felt a bit slow for you. If you were thinking back to the movie, is there a particular scene you think it could have done without to maybe have moved things on quicker?
I'm not sure, but I feel like lots of the scenes just feel slow, like they're just dragged out a bit. I feel like you could have edited it to be a bit snappier.
Right. Okay. So pacing's a bit off for you.
Yeah.
So what do we think of so Jamaica's really our only location. What do we think of Jamaica? How does it look in this movie? How well is it utilised?
It looks very nice. Well, obviously it looked like they couldn't go all over the place, all over the island. They had to stick to as few locations as possible because of the budget, but came across pretty well.
It certainly made me want to go on holiday there, especially we're recording this in December. Some blue sea, blue skies and sunshine would not go amiss right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul, is there any kind of specific scenes or sequences that stand out visually to you from the movie?
When they're on, is it Crab Cay? I like Quarrel, he's really good. And of course, Quarrel Jr. in Live and Let Die, which would be Roger Moore's first film 11 years later.
Your name, Quarrel?
Maybe.
I'm a friend of Commander Strangways.
No, ain't that nice? I like people whose friends are people.
But location-wise, it just looks really nice. It just looks lovely. And I also like it as well when he's driving to the person's house, the one that tries to, can't remember her name. And she goes, I'm on the phone. And she's pretending, and because she's got the baddies coming to get him and stuff. He obviously waits behind the door, but no, it just looks lovely. Just when they're on the boat and everything, it's just. And I suppose at that time in the early 60s, it would have felt like paradise to most people in our country because you'd never really experienced all of that. But it's a lovely And it always makes you think of Bond. Whenever I think of Jamaica, it's Bond,
It's the funny thing about Crab Key, I think before they set off to go there, and Quarrel's worrying about, the dragon on Crab Key. And I think Felix Leiter's going, don't worry, Quarrel, just breathe on him for all that rum you've been drinking.
That's
fine.
Hey, Quarrel, if you see a dragon, you get in first and breathe on him, you hear? With all that rum in you, he'll die happy.
And I think in the bit as well, when they're actually there and they're trying to go inland and they're obviously hiding underneath the water when the search parties nearly got them, I'm just thinking, for spies, they're pretty rubbish. Who goes on a spy mission wearing bright red t-shirt and a bright blue polo top? You couldn't look at, or couldn't be easier to find, especially Quarrel with a big red t-shirt on him, which makes me laugh. And one of the other ones that stand out to me, Ken Adams' set, what's his name, Dent?
Professor Dent.
When he goes to visit Dr. No and he gets placed in that room and given the tarantula, that room just looks fantastic. Just the way it's been built and the angles of the camera looks absolutely brilliant. And Ben, any scenes stand out for you?
Probably when James Bond gets first introduced, probably the most iconic scene from the movie. It's probably the best.
Let's talk about impactful things, because obviously when he does do the James Bond, we then get the theme tune. We get the James Bond theme played, obviously by Monty Norman. So how does that theme tune establish the mood, not just across this movie, but across the entire franchise?
Iconic. As soon as you hear that, just James Bond, and then the music, it's like the Finn and Jaws, you associate them. Absolutely iconic.
Is it as good as the rendition of Three Blind Mice, though? Over the opening credits?
Three blind mice on the door.
Yeah, that was pretty clever.
I like the opening credits.
Yeah, I think I like them as well. I like the way Bond was introduced, because you don't actually see his face until he does the James Bond. Just so you see his hands, it cuts to the back of him and things like that. But it just goes to show that a good soundtrack can enhance a film.
Yeah.
And you get all these iconic scenes from films throughout the years. And just shows that how essential a good soundtrack is to any film.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the soundtrack.
I was just going. Well, I suppose that goes into it. I quite like the local music as well. Jump up, jump, Jamaica, because they were like local band. I quite like that music as well. Just added to the film.
What do you think of the soundtrack overall, though, by Monty Norman? Because I'll put my hand up and say there, I don't like it at all. I think it's a very old-fashioned sounding soundtrack compared to, obviously, John Barry took over from the next movie. To me, this sounds like it makes it much more of an old-fashioned sounding movie, the way this soundtrack's done, so I'm not a fan of it. I don't know, you guys the same?
I don't actually remember any of the soundtrack apart from the main scene and Three Blind Mice and the scene at the bar. He takes out that photographer, but I don't remember any other part of the soundtrack. That's probably the remix, but yeah. I honestly don't remember any other part.
Maybe says it all.
Don't think it was that great. I just don't really remember much of it.
I was going to ask about, if this film were made today, what would be done differently? I think one of the things that immediately jumps out is the way Quarrel is ordered about as the black man in this movie. There's kind of the undercurrent of master and servant, if you like, that seems to be you get from this. So I don't think you would get that these days.
Cover it up. We'd better get some sleep before it gets light.
Any other things jump out at you that would be done differently now if they made it?
I think Honey Rider wouldn't be called Honey Rider for a start.
Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking.
I think that would be correct, yes.
Should get a bigger part.
Mm-hmm.
To be more involved maybe in the action, beating up a couple of baddies or taking them out. Probably be no casino, no drinking.
Would Dr. No be allowed his metal hands?
I think he would,
It'd
but
be
I
an-
don't think he'd be allowed to do the old Chinese eyes or anything like that.
It'd be an
No.
it'd be an
That'd be a
actual,
big no-no.
it would be a Chinese actor or somebody from Chinese descent
Yeah.
or something. Do you know what it was of its time? And
Maybe
that's just of
old
its
school attitudes.
And one of the thing with Bond is obviously the gadgets, but there's not really any in this. He's given a new gun at the beginning. He's Walter PPK. His Beretta had jammed on him in his last mission, and he was out of action for 6 months, convalescing. So I don't recall there being any gadgets as such in this, is there? Other than the Geiger counter.
Yeah, I was going to say the Geiger counter, and that was it.
That's it.
Yeah. And you miss them from this movie because you don't get them?
Not really, no.
No.
They could have done with a better car, but obviously the budget didn't stretch to an Aston Martin. So, yeah, I think
You know,
it's actually probably better without the silly gadgets. Yeah, you get some of them.
do you know the bit where once you notice it, you can't not notice it? Do you know when he's in those air vents things, and you could totally see when he falls down, it's a guy like dark hair. It's obviously not Sean Connery, but it's so obvious you can see it when he falls down, and it's like this other guy. But also as well, what's quite clever is the bit with if you've got see it in 4K now, you can see Sean Connery's tattoos covered over in blue. Do you know when the spider's going up his arm? When he gets into bed, you can see now, because the picture quality is so good, you can see like blue covering the tattoo. Because he was at Scotland Forever and Mum and Dad or something on his tattoo. So you can see that now as well. But obviously the close-up of the spider, it's a stuntman. But yeah, you can notice more things now because of technology that you maybe didn't see as much back in the day.
You know, talking the kind of ventilation tunnel type things in Dr. No's lair, when you think about it, they don't make it a lot of sense because they're ventilation. Why is there water flowing down them? And wouldn't the water be coming out of the vents in different rooms the way it's made? So if water's flowing by Bond when he's stuck in one, the water's going to come out the vents in the rooms. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Although it is a cool scene when he's in there. I do like it.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
So what would you rate this movie out of 5? Going to come to you first, Ben.
3.
Oh, Melon.
I'm going to say 4.
I'm going to agree with you on 4. Brother Paul.
That's 3 4s. I'm going to say 4 as well.
Okay. And does Dr. No deserve to remain in the James Bond franchise? Well, it's a yes for me.
Yep. For me. Definitely.
Ben, what about you?
Yes, because it's the first one.
Okay, excellent. Well, Paul and Ben, thanks for joining me. And thanks to you for listening. Please come back next week when we take a look at Dr. No's sequel, From Russia with Love. Until then, keep on trimming.
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
Good luck.